The road had vanished hours ago, swallowed by a thick, wet fog that clung to everything like a shroud. My car had given up the ghost, its engine sputtering into a final, defeated silence. I was alone, miles from anywhere, with only the weak beam of my phone's flashlight cutting a pathetic swath through the gloom. That's when I saw it, a silhouette against the gray, a shape so stark and absolute it seemed to drink the light. A house, pitch black, from its gabled roof to its foundation, as if carved from a block of solid night. There was no other choice. Shivering, more from dread than the damp chill, I pushed through a creaking iron gate and walked up a path overgrown with skeletal weeds. The house loomed over me, its windows like vacant eyes staring into nothing. The front door was heavy oak, black and imposing, with a great iron knocker shaped like a coiled serpent. I hesitated, my heart hammering against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to face the fog and the cold. But the thought of spending the night out here was somehow worse. Taking a deep breath, I lifted the cold, heavy ring and let it fall. The sound was deafening in the silence, a hollow boom that seemed to be immediately absorbed by the house itself. Silence returned. I waited. Nothing. I tried the handle. It turned with a groan, and the door swung inward on protesting hinges, opening into a chasm of absolute darkness. Stepping inside was like stepping into a tomb. The air was frigid, stagnant, and carried a faint, cloying smell of dust and something else. Something like old earth and decay. The door swung shut behind me with a final, echoing slam that made me jump, plunged into total blackness. I fumbled for my phone, slight flickering back to life, revealing a grand entryway. A wide staircase swept upwards into the gloom. The walls were lined with portraits, but their faces were obscured by shadow and grime, their painted eyes seeming to follow my every move. I called out, my voice sounding small and thin. "Hello, is anyone here?" Only the oppressive silence answered. I decided to find a place to wait until morning. My flashlight beam danced across the room, catching on a thick layer of dust covering every surface. A grandfather clock stood silent in a corner, its pendulum still. A fine film of cobwebs draped the furniture like forgotten party decorations. It was clear no one had lived here for a very long time. Then I heard it. A faint sound from upstairs. A soft, rhythmic thudding. Thud. 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 Like a ball being bounced slowly and deliberately. I froze, straining to listen. "Eat! Stop!" I told myself it was just the old house settling, my mind playing tricks on me. I started to explore the ground floor, hoping to find a sitting room, maybe a fireplace. I pushed open a door to my left and found a vast library. Bookshelves stretched from floor to ceiling, crammed with leather-bound volumes. But a strange sense of order felt wrong here. There was no dust on these books. As my light panned across the shelves, I saw one book jutting out slightly. It was bound in black leather, just like the house, with no title on its spine. Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled it out. It wasn't a book. It was a diary. The handwriting inside was elegant but frantic, the ink smudged in places as if by tears or hurried hands. It belonged to a woman named Elara. She wrote of the house, not as a home, but as a prison. She called it the Shatama, a place that fed on light, on life, on memories. She wrote about the noises, the thudding of a child's ball when no child lived there, the whispers in the walls that twisted her name into a curse, the shadows that moved in the corner of her eye, always just out of sight. My blood ran cold. The thudding I'd heard, it wasn't my imagination. As I read on, Alara's entries became more desperate. She described a presence, a collector of sorrows, that haunted the halls. It was drawn to despair, and it had fixated on her. Her last entry was a single, terrifying sentence. "It has the boy's ball. It knows I am alone. It is coming for me. It is at the door." A loud bang from upstairs shattered the silence, making me drop the diary. It was followed by a scraping sound, long and drawn out, like something heavy being dragged across the floorboards directly above me. The thudding started again, faster this time, more frantic. Thud dash thud dash thud dash thud. It was moving, coming down the stairs. Panic seized me. My light trembled in my hand, casting frantic, dancing shadows. I backed away from the library, my eyes fixed on the top of the main staircase, shrouded in darkness. The thudding grew louder, closer. Then, a small, red bowl bounced into view, tumbling down the steps one by one before rolling to a stop at the bottom of the staircase. It was old, its paint chipped, but it looked horribly, sickeningly familiar from the diary's description. I didn't dare breathe. The air grew impossibly cold, and a deeper darkness began to pool at the top of the stairs, a void that seemed to absorb my flashlight beam. A shape began to resolve itself from the gloom. It was tall and gaunt, a contorted silhouette of limbs that were too long, joints that bent at unnatural angles. It had no face. Just a smooth pale expanse, where features should have been. It was a blank canvas of pure terror. The thing unfolded itself, its movements jerky and inhuman, like a broken marionette. It began its descent, not walking, but crawling down the stairs, its long, spindly fingers scraping against the wood. The sound was like nails on a chalkboard, a grating shriek that vibrated through my bones. I was paralyzed, pinned in place by a fear so absolute it felt physical. This was the collector of sorrows. This was what took Ilara. As it reached the bottom of the stairs, it paused, its blank face tilting towards me, as if it could sense my terror. It took a slow, deliberate step in my direction. That was what broke the spell. A primal scream tore from my throat, and I spun around, blindly fumbling for the front door. My hands scrambled against the cold wood, searching for the handle. Behind me, I heard a wet, guttural hiss, a sound of pure malevolence. My fingers found the handle. Remeta wrenched it, throwing all my weight against the door. It burst open, revealing the gray, misty dawn. I didn't look back. I scrambled out of the house and ran. I ran blindly through the fog, not caring where I was going, tripping over roots and rocks, my lungs burning. The only thought in my mind was to get away from the black house, away from the faceless thing that collected sorrows within its walls. I finally stumbled back onto the road as the sun burned through the last of the fog. A passing car screeched to a halt, its driver looking at me with wide, horrified eyes. I must have been a sight, covered in mud, my face pale with terror. I never told anyone the full story. Who would believe me? But I never forgot. Sometimes, in the dead of night, when the house is quiet, I can still hear it. A faint, rhythmic and I know that the black house is still there, waiting in the fog, and its collector is still inside, waiting for another lost, sorrowful traveler to knock on its door. I escaped, but a part of me will be trapped in that house forever. A new page in its terrible collection. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe. Say, thou dare.